What happens when the invisible becomes the indispensable? In the bustling city of San Aurelio, where the glimmering skyline of high-rises casts long shadows over the gritty streets below, this question lingers in the air like smoke from a dying ember. Clara Bennett, a seemingly ordinary maid, navigates the complex web of life within the opulent mansion of Vincent Moretti, a powerful mafia boss whose influence spreads like a dark cloud over the city. Each day, Clara meticulously dusts the ornate chandeliers and polishes the marble floors, all while dreaming of a life beyond the confines of her demanding job. Little does she know, her existence is about to be irrevocably transformed by the very world she serves. Clara's life is defined by her unwavering dedication to her work and her aspirations for a brighter future. With her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun and her uniform neatly pressed, she moves through the house like a whisper, always careful to avoid drawing attention to herself. The mansion is a world of contrasts. Lavish rooms adorned with priceless art and gold accents, starkly juxtaposed with the dilapidated streets she calls home. When she glances out the grand windows, she sees a city divided by wealth, where the rich live in luxury while the poor struggle to survive. Clara often wonders if she will ever escape this cycle of poverty, dreaming of a better life, one where she isn't just a shadow in someone else's story. As Clara goes about her daily tasks, she becomes increasingly aware of the undercurrents of danger that flow through the mansion. The air is thick with tension, punctuated by hushed conversations and furtive glances exchanged among Vincent's associates. She overhears snippets of discussions filled with threats and intimidation, each word echoing in her mind like an ominous warning. Yet, she knows her place. She is just the maid, an invisible cog in the grand machine of Vincent's empire. Her duty is to stay out of sight and keep her head down. But as she dutifully fills her role, the reality of her situation becomes increasingly complicated. The conflict begins to unfold when Clara accidentally stumbles upon a violent confrontation between Vincent and a rival gang leader, Marcus. Hidden behind a towering potted plant in the grand foyer, she watches in horror as the two men exchange heated words. Marcus, a tall man with a reputation for brutality, looms over Vincent, who remains calm but tense. The confrontation escalates quickly, and Clara can feel her heart race as she witnesses the volatile situation. In an instant, fists fly, and the sound of glass shattering fills the air. Clara knows she should flee, but finds herself rooted to the spot, frozen by fear and curiosity. The realization that she is in the presence of danger jolts her into action, and she retreats quietly to the kitchen, her mind racing. With every passing day, the stakes seem to grow higher. Each time Clara steps into the mansion, she feels the weight of the tension pressing down on her, suffocating her dreams. Vincent, with his piercing blue eyes and charismatic demeanor, is a man of contradictions. He is both terrifying and magnetic, a ruler in his own right, commanding respect and fear in equal measure. Clara can't help but feel drawn to him, despite the danger he represents. She notices the way he treats her, a flicker of kindness amid the chaos of his world. But she also understands the truth. She is nothing more than a maid, and her life is not meant to intertwine with his. As Clara grapples with her feelings, the dynamics within the mansion become increasingly convoluted. The other staff members watch her closely, their eyes filled with envy and suspicion. Whispers follow her as she moves through the house, and she can feel their judgment heavy on her shoulders. They regard her as an upstart, a maid who dares to look beyond her station. Clara tries to shake off the negativity, focusing on her work and the small moments of joy she finds in her tasks. Yet the sense of isolation begins to gnaw at her, and she longs for a connection, a friendship amid the coldness of the mansion. One evening, while cleaning the lavish dining room, Clara overhears a conversation that changes everything. Vincent is speaking to his most trusted associate, Marco, a man with a reputation for ruthlessness. Clara strains to listen as they discuss a shipment of illegal goods that has gone missing. The tension in Vincent's voice sends shivers down her spine as he details the consequences of this setback. It becomes clear to Clara that the stakes are much higher than mere business. This is a world where betrayal can lead to violence and loyalty is bought with blood. The reality of her situation sinks in deeper, and she realizes that she is not just a maid. She is entangled in a dangerous game that she does not fully comprehend. As the days turn into weeks, Clara's internal struggle intensifies. She feels like a spectator in a world of chaos, unable to break free from the confines of her role. The mansion, once a place of dreams, now feels like a gilded cage. Yet, the more she learns about Vincent and the world he inhabits, the more she finds herself drawn to him. It is a dangerous attraction, one that could lead to her downfall. Clara grapples with her emotions, torn between her desire for a better life and the reality of her situation. The conflict within her grows, and she begins to question where her loyalties truly lie. The pivotal moment comes one fateful night when Clara is summoned to Vincent's office. The plush room, filled with luxury and power, feels suffocating as she steps inside. Vincent stands by the window, his silhouette framed by the city lights. He turns to her, his expression unreadable. "Clara, I need your help," he says, his voice steady. The weight of his words hangs in the air, and Clara's heart races. She realizes that this is the moment where her life could take a drastic turn. As he explains that he needs someone he can trust to assist him with a delicate matter, Clara's mind races with possibilities. She knows that stepping into Vincent's world could lead her down a dangerous path, but the allure of being more than just a maid is intoxicating. She looks into his eyes, searching for answers, and in that moment she sees something unexpected, a vulnerability that makes her heart ache. Clara feels drawn to him in a way she cannot fully understand, but she also knows the risks. Tension builds as Clara weighs her options. The conflict between her dreams and the harsh reality of her life comes to a head. She realizes that the choices she makes from this point forward will define her future. The stakes are higher than ever, and as Clara prepares to step into the unknown, she cannot shake the feeling that her life is about to change forever. With every heartbeat, the world outside the mansion continues to spin, unaware of the invisible battles being fought within its walls. Clara stands at a crossroads, ready to confront her fate, but the question remains. Will she emerge stronger, or will the darkness consume her? The audience is left on the edge of their seats, eager to see what will happen next as Clara takes her first step into a world fraught with danger and intrigue. As the camera fades, the screen prompts viewers to subscribe for more gripping stories, leaving them hungry for the unfolding drama that awaits Clara Bennett in the shadows of the Mafia. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the opulent mansion, Clara found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. The lavish surroundings, adorned with crystal chandeliers and intricate tapestries, felt more like a gilded cage than a sanctuary. She had spent countless hours meticulously dusting the ornate furniture, scrubbing the marble floors until they gleamed, yet the luxurious lifestyle of the wealthy inhabitants felt worlds apart from her own humble existence. Clara's heart raced as she recalled the violent confrontation she had witnessed just days earlier. The echoes of raised voices and the sharp crack of a fist against flesh played on repeat in her mind, haunting her even in the stillness of the night. She had stumbled upon the scene by accident, her curiosity pulling her closer to the shadows where danger lurked. Vincent, the enigmatic mafia boss she served, had been embroiled in a heated argument with one of his associates, a brutish man whose loyalty was rivaled only by his willingness to resort to violence. Fear gripped Clara as she remembered the way Vincent's steely gaze had flickered with something akin to vulnerability, a fleeting glimpse of the man behind the powerful facade. The opulence of the mansion, with its lavish decorations and extravagant parties, contrasted sharply with the dark undercurrents of the life Clara had unwittingly become a part of. As she moved through the grand hall, her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of laughter echoing from the dining room. A lavish dinner was in full swing, with Vincent and his closest allies gathered around a table adorned with gourmet dishes and fine wines. Clara's heart sank at the thought of the violence that simmered beneath their camaraderie. She was just a maid to them, an invisible figure who scurried to fulfill their every whim. Yet her heart ached to be seen, to be recognized as more than just a cog in their ruthless machine. As she served drinks to the table, Clara caught glimpses of the conversations that unfolded, a mix of business deals and veiled threats layered beneath the laughter. Vincent, with his charismatic charm, commanded the room with an air of authority that both captivated and terrified her. She watched him interact with his associates, revealing a man who was both a leader and a prisoner of his own making. The dichotomy of his character fascinated Clara, drawing her in even as she knew she should keep her distance. "Clara," Vincent called out, his voice cutting through her thoughts. "Bring me the wine from the cellar." His tone was commanding, yet there was an underlying warmth that made her heart flutter. She nodded, quickly making her way to the cellar, where the cool air contrasted with the heat of the dining room. As she descended the stairs, Clara felt a sense of foreboding settle over her. The cellar was dimly lit, shadows dancing on the walls as she reached for the vintage bottle of wine. Her thoughts raced as she gripped the bottle tightly, her mind replaying the events that had transpired since she had crossed paths with Vincent. She had never intended to become entangled in the Mafia's world. Her dreams had been simple: escape the cycle of poverty and build a better life. But now she found herself standing at the precipice of an uncertain future, teetering between loyalty and self-preservation. Returning to the dining room, Clara poured the wine, her hands shaking slightly as she tried to maintain her composure. The laughter around the table continued, but the tension in the air was palpable. She could sense the undercurrents of danger lurking just beneath the surface, a reminder that the world she served was fraught with peril. "Clara," Vincent said, his gaze locking onto hers, momentarily freezing her in place. "You've been doing an excellent job. I appreciate your hard work." The compliment felt like a lifeline, yet it also weighed heavily on her. She could see the darkness in his eyes, a reminder that kindness could easily be overshadowed by brutality. As the evening wore on, Clara found herself retreating to the kitchen, seeking solace in the familiar chaos of pots and pans. She leaned against the counter, allowing herself a moment to breathe. The warmth of the kitchen enveloped her, a stark contrast to the chilling reality of the world outside. But her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden sound of raised voices drifting from the dining room, a sharp reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the walls. "Vincent, you're playing a dangerous game," one of the associates warned, his voice laced with concern. "You can't trust anyone, not even your closest allies." Clara's heart raced as she strained to listen, the weight of their words pressing heavily on her chest. "Trust is a luxury I can't afford," Vincent replied, his tone steely and resolute. "But I know who my enemies are, and I won't hesitate to protect what's mine." The conversation sent shivers down Clara's spine. The stakes were rising, and she felt the tension crackling in the air like a live wire. She couldn't shake the feeling that her life was intricately woven into the fabric of the Mafia's dangerous game, and every choice she made could have dire consequences. Days passed, and Clara found herself entangled in a web of secrets and lies. She navigated her daily tasks with a newfound awareness, her instincts honed to detect the subtle shifts in the atmosphere around her. Vincent's temper was unpredictable, and the power struggles among his associates left her feeling like a pawn on a chessboard. The once inviting mansion now felt like a labyrinth, each room holding echoes of past decisions and unspoken threats. One evening, while cleaning the opulent library, Clara discovered a hidden compartment within Vincent's desk. Curiosity nodded at her as she pried it open, revealing a collection of documents detailing financial transactions and names that sent chills down her spine. She quickly closed the compartment, her heart racing as she realized the gravity of what she had stumbled upon. The knowledge weighed heavily on her, a burden she could not share with anyone. "Clara!" Vincent's voice boomed from the hallway, interrupting her thoughts. She rushed to the door, her heart pounding. "I need you to organize a meeting for me," he instructed, his expression unreadable. "It's important." "Of course, Mr. Vincent," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. As she turned to leave, Clara's mind raced with the implications of the meeting. She had seen enough to understand that Vincent's world was a treacherous one, and she was now a part of it whether she wanted to be or not. The days turned into weeks, and the tension in the mansion grew as whispers of betrayal circulated among Vincent's associates. Clara became increasingly aware of the danger lurking in the shadows, her instincts screaming at her to escape. But with each passing day, her connection to Vincent deepened, and she found herself torn between self-preservation and an inexplicable pull towards the man who had become both her employer and her captor. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the city, Clara heard the unmistakable sound of raised voices echoing from the mansion's grand foyer. Curiosity tugged at her, and she cautiously approached, peering through the ornate doorway. Vincent stood at the center of the room, his expression a mask of rage as he confronted one of his associates, a man named Marco who had been with him for years. "You've crossed a line, Marco," Vincent warned, his voice low and dangerous. "I won't tolerate betrayal." Marco's defiance was palpable as he squared his shoulders. "I'm not the one you should be worried about, Vincent. There are forces at play that you can't control." The tension reached a boiling point, and Clara's breath caught in her throat as she watched the confrontation unfold. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her, the air thick with unspoken threats. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted as Marco lunged forward, his intent clear as he reached for a concealed weapon. Time seemed to slow as Clara's instincts kicked in. Without thinking, she surged forward, her heart pounding in her chest as she positioned herself between Vincent and the imminent threat. "Stop!" Clara shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. In that split second, she felt a surge of courage, a determination to protect the man she had come to understand in ways she never thought possible. But before she could react further, the sound of gunfire erupted, and Clara felt a searing pain explode in her side. The world around her faded into a blur as she crumpled to the floor, the realization of what had just transpired hitting her with a force she couldn't comprehend. Vincent's shocked expression lingered in her fading consciousness, the weight of her sacrifice echoing in the silence that followed. In that moment, Clara's fate was sealed, and the darkness that had threatened to consume her now danced tantalizingly close, leaving the audience breathless and eager for what would come next. Clara's world spun in a haze of pain and confusion as she lay on the cold floor of the opulent mansion, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The searing agony in her side was a harsh reminder of her impulsive choice, the choice to save Vincent. She had barely registered the chaos unfolding around her before darkness began to creep into her vision, threatening to pull her under. Vincent's shocked expression was burned into her mind, a mixture of disbelief and a burgeoning sense of admiration for her bravery. He had always seen her as just a maid, a cog in the grand machine of his empire. But in that moment, she had transformed into something more, something that challenged the very foundation of his understanding. As she slipped into unconsciousness, Clara felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, she was more than the roles assigned to her. When Clara woke, it was not in the comfort of her small apartment, but in a sterile hospital room, the beeping machines and muted voices creating a surreal atmosphere around her. Panic surged through her as she instinctively reached for her side, feeling the bandages wrapped tightly around her torso. The reality of what had transpired crashed down on her like a tidal wave. She had taken a bullet, her body a testament to her bravery. Vincent was there, sitting in a chair by her bedside, his expression a mix of concern and something deeper she couldn't quite identify. His tailored suit and polished shoes contrasted sharply with the sterile environment, and for the first time, she noticed the weariness etched into his features. This wasn't the powerful mafia boss she was accustomed to. This was a man grappling with the weight of responsibility, guilt, and perhaps a newfound respect for the woman before him. "Clara," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, "you shouldn't have done that." She struggled to speak, her throat dry and scratchy, but the fire of determination burned within her. I couldn't let you die," she managed to croak out, her voice hoarse. Vincent leaned closer, his eyes searching hers for answers. "Why would you risk your life for me? You barely know me." In that moment, Clara felt a surge of conviction. "I may be just a maid, but I've seen the darkness that surrounds you. I've seen the lives you touch, the people you protect. I may not have power, but I have courage, and sometimes that's enough." His eyes softened, and for a fleeting moment, the walls he had built around himself began to crumble. Clara sensed a shift in their dynamic. She was no longer just a nameless face in his world. She was now a part of it, a critical piece in a dangerous game. As the days passed in the hospital, Clara's recovery was slow but steady. Vincent visited her regularly, bringing flowers that stood in stark contrast to the clinical white of the hospital room. They shared conversations that lingered in the air long after he left, discussions about power, loyalty, and the fine line between right and wrong. Clara began to see the man behind the mafia boss, the vulnerabilities and the burdens he carried. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow through the window, Vincent took a seat beside her bed, his demeanor more relaxed than usual. "You've changed everything for me, Clara," he admitted, his tone grave. "I've always believed that vulnerability is a weakness, but you've shown me that it can be a strength." Clara smiled weakly, feeling a sense of pride swell within her. "You've always had it within you, Vincent. You just needed someone to help you see it." He nodded, contemplating her words. "I've lost too many people to this life. I don't want to lose you, too." Her heart raced at the weight of his declaration. There was an unspoken bond forming between them, a connection that transcended their original roles. But Clara knew the reality of their world. Vincent was a man of power, and she was a woman of circumstance. Their lives were intertwined by danger, and she would have to tread carefully. A few days later, Clara was finally discharged from the hospital. As she stepped into the sunlight, the warm rays washed over her, a stark contrast to the sterile confines of the hospital. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to navigate the precarious path ahead. Vincent had arranged her to return to the mansion, but this time she would no longer be just a maid. He had promised her a position that would allow her to be involved in the operations, a way to protect herself and influence the decisions being made around her. It was an opportunity for her to step into a world where she could wield power of her own, a world that had previously seemed unattainable. As Clara settled back into the mansion, she found herself navigating a complex web of loyalties and alliances. The other members of Vincent's inner circle eyed her with suspicion, their loyalty to him unwavering but wary of this new dynamic. Clara felt the weight of their gazes, each one a reminder that she was still seen as an outsider in a world steeped in tradition and power struggles. Among them was Marco, Vincent's right-hand man, a man whose loyalty bordered on obsession. He had always treated Clara with disdain, viewing her as nothing more than a servant. Now, however, he regarded her with a mixture of contempt and curiosity. "What makes you think you belong here?" he challenged one evening, his tone dripping with skepticism. Clara stood her ground, her heart racing but her voice steady. "I've proven my loyalty. I've saved Vincent's life. I deserve a place in this world." He scoffed, crossing his arms defiantly. "This isn't a fairy tale. You think courage will protect you here? It's ruthless, and you'll learn that quickly." Clara's resolve hardened. She knew Marco was right about one thing: the world they inhabited was dangerous. But she also understood that courage could be a weapon, and she was determined to wield it. As weeks turned into months, Clara immersed herself in her new role, learning the intricacies of the Mafia's operations and the delicate balance of power that governed them. Vincent became her mentor, guiding her through the complexities of the criminal underworld. He taught her how to navigate the treacherous waters of loyalty and betrayal, and she began to grasp the nuances of survival in a world where trust was a rare commodity. Their relationship deepened, evolving into a partnership built on mutual respect and understanding. Clara found herself drawn to Vincent in ways she hadn't anticipated. His vulnerability resonated with her, and she admired his unwavering determination to protect those he cared about. In return, Vincent began to rely on Clara not just for her insights, but also for her unwavering spirit. Yet, as their bond grew, so did the threats around them. Rival factions began to take notice of the changing dynamics within Vincent's organization. Whispers of betrayal echoed through the dark corners of the city, and Clara felt the tension in the air grow thick. One fateful evening, as Clara and Vincent sat together in his office, reviewing plans for an upcoming meeting with potential allies, the atmosphere was charged with expectation. "We need to be vigilant," Vincent said, his tone serious. "There are rumors of an impending attack." Clara's heart raced at the thought of danger looming over them. "What can we do?" she asked, her determination ignited. Vincent looked at her, a mixture of admiration and apprehension in his eyes. "We'll prepare, but I want you to stay close to me. I can't protect you if you're out of my sight." The words hung heavy in the air, and Clara felt a thrill at the thought of standing by his side during the impending storm. She understood the risks, but she also knew that she was no longer just the maid. She was a vital part of Vincent's world and his plans for the future. The climax of their struggle approached as tensions escalated, and Clara found herself at the center of a brewing conflict. The choice she had made to protect Vincent had transformed her life in ways she never imagined. She had become more than a mere participant in his world. She was now a player in the dangerous game of power, loyalty, and sacrifice. With each passing day, the stakes grew higher, and Clara prepared herself for the inevitable confrontation that would determine their fates. The darkness that had once threatened to consume her now felt like a force she could harness, an ally in her quest for survival, and a testament to the courage she had discovered within herself. As the shadows loomed closer, Clara steeled herself, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She had already taken a bullet for Vincent. Now she would fight to prove that her place in this world was not just earned, but essential. In the heart of darkness, she had found her strength, and she was determined to wield it against the tide of danger that threatened to engulf them both. As Clara lay on the cold, hard ground, the world around her began to fade into a blur. The initial shock of the bullet's impact coursed through her body, a searing pain that felt both foreign and familiar. In those fleeting moments, she could hear the chaos around her, the panicked shouts of Vincent's men, the echo of gunfire still ringing in her ears, and the ominous silence that followed as her vision dimmed. Yet, amidst the turmoil, a singular thought pierced through the haze. She had chosen to protect Vincent, and she would not let her sacrifice be in vain. Vincent dropped to her side, his expression a mix of horror and disbelief. The man who had always held power and control, the one who commanded fear and respect, was now at the mercy of the one person he had underestimated. Clara could see the desperation in his eyes, a flicker of vulnerability that he rarely displayed. It was a moment of raw humanity beneath the hardened exterior of a mafia boss. "Clara, stay with me," he urged, his voice breaking as he cradled her head in his hands, his fingers trembling against her hair. The sirens wailed in the distance, their sound growing louder as time slipped away. Clara fought to stay conscious, focusing on Vincent's face, the man who had become her world in unexpected ways. She had entered his life as a maid, a mere shadow in the grand narrative of his empire. Yet she had risen to become so much more. You need to get out of here," she managed to whisper, each word laced with effort. "They'll come for you." "No," Vincent replied fiercely, shaking his head in defiance. "You're the one who needs help, Clara. I can't lose you, not like this." His grip tightened around her, a protective instinct that surged forward, an acknowledgement of the bond they had forged through the chaos of their lives. In that moment, something profound shifted within Clara. She realized that her life had meaning beyond servitude. She had become an integral part of this dark world, a world she had once feared but now faced with unwavering resolve. The pain coursing through her body was merely a reminder of her choice, a choice that had been driven by something deeper than obligation. It was love, raw and unfiltered, that had propelled her into the line of fire. As the paramedics arrived, Clara felt herself being lifted onto a stretcher, Vincent by her side, never leaving her. She could hear the frantic instructions being shouted, the urgency of the scene swirling around them. But as the world became a cacophony of voices and flashing lights, Clara clung to the sound of Vincent's voice, his presence anchoring her amidst the chaos. "I'm here, Clara. You're going to be okay," he promised, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his fear. The ambulance doors swung shut, blocking out the frantic scene outside. Inside, the paramedics worked quickly, their hands moving with practiced precision. Clara felt the coldness of the medical equipment against her skin, the sharpness of reality cutting through the fog in her mind. She focused on Vincent, his eyes locked onto hers, a lifeline in the storm. "You're my strength, Clara," he said softly, and in that moment she believed him. She believed that she could harness the darkness around them, the very essence of the life she had stepped into, and turn it into something powerful. As they raced through the city, sirens blaring, Clara felt the weight of her decision settle around her like a cloak. She had stepped into the fray, not as a mere maid, but as a warrior in her own right. The realization struck her. She could no longer hide in the shadows. She had taken a bullet for Vincent, a testament to her loyalty and an undeniable shift in their dynamic. Days passed in a blur of recovery, and Clara found herself in a hospital room, the sterile smell of antiseptic mingling with the faint scent of flowers that Vincent had brought. He remained at her side, a constant presence, even as the doctors tended to her wounds. The bullet had struck her shoulder, leaving her with a painful reminder of her bravery, but it also marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Clara's strength began to return, and with it, a newfound clarity. She understood that the Mafia world was rife with danger, but it was also filled with opportunities for those brave enough to seize them. As she healed, the bond between her and Vincent deepened. He shared stories of his past, his struggles and triumphs, and she found herself captivated not only by his power, but by the man behind the Mafia facade. Vincent, too, had changed. The experience of nearly losing Clara had ignited something within him, a realization that life was fleeting and precious. He began to reevaluate his empire, the ruthless methods he had relied upon, and the people he had trusted. Clara's act of bravery served as a catalyst for his transformation, pushing him to reconsider his role as a leader and the legacy he wanted to leave behind. One evening, as they sat together in her hospital room, Vincent reached for Clara's hand, a gesture filled with unspoken promises. "You showed me what it means to fight for something worth protecting," he said, his gaze steady and sincere. "I can't go back to the way things were. I want to change, for you and for us." Clara felt the warmth of his declaration wash over her, a wave of hope mingling with the residual pain in her shoulder. "We can't change everything overnight, Vincent, but we can start by being true to ourselves," she replied, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. Together, they would navigate the complexities of their world, but now it would be on their terms. With her recovery well underway, Clara began to take active steps in reshaping her life. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She was a woman with agency, with dreams, and with the heart of a warrior. She immersed herself in the workings of Vincent's empire, offering insights and strategies that showcased her intelligence and resilience. The men who once dismissed her as just a maid now watched in awe as she navigated the treacherous waters of the Mafia with grace and poise. Vincent encouraged her every step of the way, his faith in her unwavering. "You're not just my ally, you're my partner," he told her one evening as they strategized for an upcoming meeting with rival factions. Clara felt a surge of pride at his acknowledgement, the recognition of her worth beyond the titles society had imposed upon her. As the months passed, the dynamics of power within Vincent's organization began to shift. With Clara's influence, they moved away from brutality and embraced a more strategic approach to their dealings. She encouraged Vincent to build alliances rather than destroy enemies, fostering a sense of community among those who had long been at odds. Their relationship blossomed amidst the chaos, transforming into a partnership rooted in respect and admiration. Clara found herself falling for Vincent, not just for the man he was, but for the man he was becoming. She saw the flickers of vulnerability beneath his hardened exterior, the moments of tenderness that revealed his true self. One night, as they stood on the balcony of Vincent's mansion overlooking the city, Clara took a deep breath, the cool night air wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she said, her heart swelling with emotion. Vincent turned to her, his eyes reflecting the starlit sky. "You've changed everything for me, Clara. You're my light in this darkness," he replied, his voice filled with sincerity. In that moment, Clara knew that their journey was just beginning. They had faced the shadows together, and together they would continue to shine. The past would always linger, but it no longer defined them. They were not just a maid and a mafia boss. They were partners in every sense of the word, ready to face whatever the future held for them. As the city pulsed below, Clara felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had fought for her place in this world, taken a bullet for love, and emerged stronger than ever. Now, with Vincent by her side, she was ready to embrace the complexities of their lives and forge a path that would change their destinies forever. With courage and love as their guiding forces, Clara and Vincent stepped into the future, hand in hand, ready to rewrite the rules of their world. The darkness that had once threatened to consume them now felt like a canvas, waiting for them to paint their story anew, one filled with hope, resilience, and an unbreakable bond that would withstand any storm. As they turned to re-enter the mansion, Clara smiled, her heart full of determination. She had found her place, not just as a maid, but as a force to be reckoned with in a world where love and darkness intertwined. And together, they would prove that sometimes the most unexpected heroes emerge from the shadows, ready to take on the world. What do you think of Clara's incredible journey and her transformation from a maid to a pivotal figure in the Mafia? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video if you enjoyed the story, and don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling narratives that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Your engagement means the world to us, and we can't wait to share more stories with you.